Coming up on Point News, plans for education, a hot-button issue in the race for Pennsylvania governor. Point News fact-checks both sides.
A Pittsburgh landmark is celebrating 75 years, the out-of-the-world anniversary coming up.
Plus, beard enthusiasts come together to find out why they ditched their razors for a good cause. Point News starts right now.
Live from the Point Park University Broadcast Center in downtown Pittsburgh, this is Point News.
Good afternoon and welcome to Point News. I'm Alexis Adams.
And I'm Tyler Jeske. We're less than 2 weeks away from Election Day. During the race for Pennsylvania governor, education has been a hot topic.
Democrat Tom Wolf has heavily criticized Governor Tom Corbett's record. While the governor has shot back, reporter Chris Hoffman puts claims from both candidates to the test.
In the last few months, Pennsylvania voters have heard a lot about basic education. Governor Tom Corbett has said he's put money into the budget.
We have now grown the budget back to over $10 billion, and we have put more money into education than any time in the history of education here in Pennsylvania.
While his challenger, Democrat Tom Wolf, has said Governor Corbett has actually taken money away from basic education.
$1 billion was cut from education in Governor Corbett's first term, and that's the truth.
Each candidate says he is speaking the truth. So, Point News decided to look into the matter, and here's what we found. Now here's the state budget in the last year of Governor Ed Rendell, 2010-2011, and the first year of Governor Tom Corbett. In his last year, Ed Rendell had set aside $5.77 billion in basic education. Now only $4.73 billion of it was from the state budget, the rest was federal stimulus money. Governor Tom Corbett in his first year had $5.35 billion set aside for basic education, all of which was state money. So Governor Tom Corbett is actually accurate in saying his administration put forth more state money toward education.
Now we've replaced it. We're above where to the highest level ever if we're talking state dollars.
But if you add the total money, state and federal, that goes into education now compared to 4 years ago, Corbett has actually spent less on education than his Democratic predecessor. Tom Wolf also argues that money now isn't going into the classroom, but instead into teacher pension funds.
We still, in terms of what's going into the classroom, we're still down by $580 million.
Reporting for Point News, I'm Chris Hoffman.
It was an action-packed 3 days in the nation's capital for 30 Point Park students and 5 faculty members. Last weekend, they took a trip to Washington, D.C. to network and see the sights. Point News reporter Tori Adams has more.
The first stop on the tour of Washington, D.C. was the Newseum. Students also attended various networking events depending on their majors. Honors and history students went to the Holocaust Museum, while photojournalism majors went to the National Geographic Archives. Broadcasting students visited CQ Roll Call and the Washington, D.C. BBC branch.
The favorite part for me, I'd say, was the tour of BBC. I think that was really cool because we got to do a Q&A with one of the news directors at BBC, and he was able to tell us all of the different types of story ideas they look for and how they write their stories, which for me being a journalism major, it was a really cool thing to see how they what they look for in their stories, and that's something that I can take in my own writing back here at Point Park.
Essentially it all boils down to, can you spot a good story and do you know how to tell a good story?
After the individual visits, the students met at the National Zoo for a public relations presentation. They also had a chance to explore.
My favorite part of the trip was being able to go see all the monuments that DC has to offer, like the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument.
The students hope there will be more networking trips like this in the future.
I hope they continue the Washington, D.C. trip next year. It's definitely a great experience, and I think that Point Park students are lucky to be able to go on a trip for that inexpensive.
Reporting for Point News, I'm Tori Adams.
Auctioning off surplus vehicles. They include former police cars, motorcycles, fire trucks, and utility trucks. The auction will be at the City Garage facility on 29th and Railroad Streets. Now, if you want to be there, registration is at 8 a.m. with the auction beginning at 10.
More commuter flights are coming to Pittsburgh International Airport. During a news conference this week, Allegheny County Executive Rich Fitzgerald announced that Florida-based Sun Air will now have flights from Pittsburgh International to Altoona, PA, and to Jamestown, New York. Pittsburgh lost service to smaller cities when U.S. Airways eliminated its hub here in 2004. These new flights are expected to take off starting this November.
The Buell Planetarium has been an educational staple in Pittsburgh for decades. This year, it's celebrating a pretty big birthday. Point News reporter Jillian Trainer has more.
The Carnegie Science Center makes learning fun for children of all ages, but for 75 years, the Buell Planetarium has been giving viewers an experience that's truly out of this world.
3, 2, 1.
Established in 1939, the Buell Planetarium has moved around and seen some changes, but still proves it can stand the test of time.
One thing that goes back from generation to generation to generation is the Buell Planetarium.
Though they may be stargazers, the goals of those at the planetarium are pretty down to earth, continuing their dedication to education and developing new after-school programs, and something extra special for those visiting the planetarium.
We're offering a new show that we just developed called Solar Quest. It talks about how we live in the atmosphere of a star.
If you notice something a little funny about our star, you may be seeing the first partial solar eclipse to take place in Pittsburgh since 2005. And there's more on the way.
There's going to be a total solar eclipse through North America, just a short drive away. This is a prelude to what's coming in 2017.
Big or small, some viewing tips to remember are eye protection. Although this upcoming eclipse will hang low in the sky, don't be tempted to stare at it with your naked eye. And find someplace high enough to see the horizon, as the sun will be setting during the eclipse.
The planetarium celebrations may be coming to a close, but when the universe is your stage, the show is just beginning. The upcoming partial solar eclipse will grace the Pittsburgh skies October 23rd. For Point News, I'm Jillian Trainer.
Coming up on Point News, bring attention to cancer and a very unique journey. We catch up with a man who's taking his mission across the country.
And it's not your typical beauty pageant. This one was all about the contest, raised money for some even furrier friends.
We are a social people. We share our inspiration, wisdom, creations, and memories. We share what makes us laugh and what angers us. Built on the notion of a free flow of ideas, our country thrives on the freedom of speech. Without it, who would watch over our governing powers? And how would we share our history to make a difference for the future? It's this freedom to share that gives us a reason to listen.
Start your morning with City News.
Start your morning with campus news.
Start your morning with political coverage.
Start your morning with fun.
Start your morning with us, only on Daybreak.
Did you know that Point Park has a cheerleading squad?
Don't stop. Don't get it confused.
Not only do our cheerleaders represent Point Park at regional and national competitions, but they also promote spirit and awareness of every sports team on campus. Come to any men's or women's varsity basketball game at home to watch the cheerleaders perform at halftime and cheer from the sidelines from the first jump ball to the final buzzer. Sports not your thing? You can catch the cheer team lead the crowd at the fall and spring pep rallies as well, or at several competitions around Pittsburgh each year. So what are you waiting for? Show the Point Park cheerleaders the support they show you.
To me, freedom of speech means there are no barriers to voice opinions. Communication is key to a functioning society and relationships in those societies. I believe our forefathers gave us this right, so if concerns or problems arise, we have the right to respectively use words, aids, and body language to give our message. Compromise may not always be met, but when it does meet, it opens up the world to new ideas, relationships, and makes the world become a happier place.
One man is taking a unique cross-country journey to raise awareness about something a lot of men don't talk about.
Point News caught up with him when he came through Pittsburgh. Reporter Zach Durkin shows us the unusual way he's bringing attention to testicular cancer.
A lot of men are uncomfortable talking about it, but this man isn't letting that stop him.
In 2009, I was diagnosed with stage 3 testicular cancer in New York City. So I was a fashion photographer, I was a filmmaker, and for me, everything kind of crumbled down, I guess, would you say.
Thomas Cantley is on a mission to raise awareness for the disease that threatened to take his life. He is on a cross-country journey from Los Angeles to New York to inform people about the most common cancer in males aged 15 to 35. The giant ball he pushes represents the testicle he lost to the disease. The 6-foot ball commands a lot of attention on the street and opens up people to start asking questions.
In the beginning, I wanted to be in a charity, but it's just you have your hands in way too many baskets, and I don't get to focus on what my passion is, and that's about educating young men about being proactive. So that's what it kind of came about. I said, okay, I need a novelty idea, and that's going to get attention and get the conversation going.
In a way to get people more involved, Thomas has them sign the ball. In addition to adding their name, he asks them to include where they're from. Cantley says it's just another way to get people to come up and start a conversation. Cantley's message is not just for men. He wants women to get involved in the fight against testicular cancer as well.
This is a great cause to be aware of, you know. Just because it doesn't personally affect me because I'm a woman doesn't mean that you can't go out and share this newfound knowledge with other people.
After Pittsburgh, Cantley and his crew venture to Washington, D.C., then to New York for the end of their journey. He says it's not easy, but it's worth it. Reporting for Point News, I'm Zach Durkin.
A Point Park athlete is on pace to set a new school record, what he says gives him the strength to succeed.
The weather this week has been cold and gray. Tori Adams will have a look to see if the weekend will be more of the same.
Here at the Pioneers sideline, we get freshmen involved as quickly as possible so they get the real-world experience on air and behind the scenes to set themselves apart in internships and potential jobs. Blaine, where is that video? I needed it in KeyPro like yesterday.
All right, I got you, Chris. But I had a quick question for you guys.
What do you mean the questions? It's always a question. It's always a... What? Where is he? Blaine! 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 Freshman, you can't find any good ones anymore.
Do you know all the things you can do with your student ID? Along with getting discounts to some of the restaurants around campus. Showing your Point Park ID can net you deals on tickets at theaters in the Cultural District. To check out all the current options, just search Student Discounts on the Point Park University homepage.
An expression, a belief, a symbol, freedom to worship, an unspoken word. To express yourself means standing up for what you believe in. There's a freedom to worship and freedom to live. To speak never saying a word, to love, to let your voice be heard. The light of your own path. For more information, visit www.freedomofspeechpsa.org.
When you talk about Bears in Pittsburgh, the first thing that may come to mind is Steeler Brett Keisel, but he's not the only one sporting that look. The facial hair was flowing at the Rivers Casino this week. Point News reporter Joel Anderson has the story of the unique event for a great cause.
It takes months or even years to grow something like this. But this bearded bunch says it's all worth it. Hundreds of people came out for the second annual Beards for Beasts facial hair competition hosted by Pittsburgh's Steel City Beard and Mustache Club. The club's president, Andrew Miskowisk, said the event was months in the making.
It's about a 6-month process, putting everything together, from picking a date, obviously when you're doing something at a big place like Rivers Casino, there's a lot, there are a lot of I's to be dotted and a lot of T's to be crossed.
All the proceeds went to the Animal Rights League, Hello Bully, and the Proper Pit Bull.
Everything was bigger this year than last year. Last year we had 88 total contestants. This year I don't know exactly how many we had. I think we were just over 100. So we were a little bit bigger as far as the contestants went. We had a few more categories as well.
The categories included full beard less than 3 inches, 3 to 6 inches, 6 to 10 inches, and more than 10 inches and freestyle. There was also the mustache styled and natural, partial beard, chops, goatee, and freestyle, and fake beards, most realistic and most creative. So these guys say, why pick up a razor? As long as they're raising money for charity and bringing attention to the Steel City. Reporting for Point News, I'm Joel Anderson.
We've had a fairly chilly week so far, but not too bad for October, though.
Now, let's go over to Tori Adams for a look at how the rest of the week is going to play out. Tori?
All right, guys, the temperatures are in today, the temperature in the morning is 45, and then as it increases, and at 5 o'clock it'll be around 63 degrees, and we'll move into tonight, which, let's look at the weekend. So the high for Friday is 61 degrees, the high for Saturday is 63, and Sunday will be 61 degrees. And we'll move into the 5-day forecast, the 7-day forecast. This is video from Point State Park where the leaves are falling from the trees. The weather we're having is great football weather, and for more on that, let's send it over to Karen Moe.
Tori, the Steelers hope to pick up this Sunday where they left off on Monday Night Football. The Black and Gold beat the visiting Houston Texans in a 30-23 comeback victory. Most of those points came in a matter of minutes. During the game, Le'Veon Bell became the first player in Steeler history to top 100 yards of total offense in each of the game's first 7 games. He finished the half with a total of 110 yards. The Steelers play the Colts this Sunday at 4:25 at Heinz Field. The Penguins had a disappointing defeat last night, losing 3-2 to crosstown rivals, the Philadelphia Flyers. The Pens had a strong start, dominating after the power plays courtesy of Sidney Crosby. They now sit in the bottom 5 in the Eastern Conference with a 3-2 record. The team will face the Red Wings tonight at 7:30 in Detroit. Point Park senior forward Lucas Silva was named the KIAC Men's Soccer Offensive Player of the Week after scoring 10 goals in 1 week. The Brazil native has already met the record for most goals in a single season and is on his way to setting the school record for most career goals, with a total of 39 goals, only 11 away from making history. Silva believes that their teamwork and camaraderie are what make the team so strong and successful.
It gave me the strength to keep going and stay here. And we are like a family. We always together, we do everything together. When I'm not on the field with my teammates, we're doing something together.
Silva and the Pioneers also just tied the team record for wins in a season at 12. They play Asbury this weekend. The Point Park volleyball team is also getting some recognition in the NAIA polls, getting voted number 36 overall 3 weeks in a row. The team has just surpassed last year's wins with a record of 22-10 on the season after beating Pitt Johnstown Tuesday night. This weekend, the Pioneers will compete at Indiana Tech Tournament. You can follow the team on Twitter at Point Park Sports and at Point Park VB.
That does it for this week's Point News. Be sure to join us next Thursday, live at 2 p.m.
Have a great week, everybody.